Let's talk about one of the hottest topics in US law and politics right now: tech regulation and privacy policy. If you've ever wondered about your online privacy, or if you've been bombarded by data breaches and how companies use your personal information, you're not alone. And that's exactly what's up for debate right now. So, what's going on? Well, the US is currently having some big conversations about how to regulate giant tech companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple, and what rules should be put in place to protect consumer privacy. These companies gather and use an incredible amount of data about us, from what we search, to where we go, to even what we buy online. Here's the main issue. These companies often know more about us than we might realize, and that's raised concerns over how this data is collected, used, and sometimes even shared with others without us fully knowing or agreeing to it. For example, apps and websites track our behavior in ways that might feel a little too intrusive, and sometimes our personal information ends up being sold or used for targeted ads. That's where privacy policies come in. But here's the catch. Most of us don't actually read the fine print of these policies when we sign up for a new app or create an account online. Companies often collect far more data than we think, and the policies are written in ways that are hard for the average person to understand. Now, the government is stepping in, trying to balance the need for innovation with the need to protect consumer rights. Recently, lawmakers have been discussing potential new laws and regulations to better control what these companies can and can't do with our data. There are a few key areas they're focusing on. 1. Data protection. Should there be rules that limit how much personal data companies can collect and how long they can store it? 1. Some new laws might force companies to be more transparent about the data they gather and how they use it. 2. User consent. Should tech companies be required to make it easier for us to control what data they can collect? 2. For example, some are pushing for stricter rules around opt-in consent, meaning companies would need to get clearer permission from us before collecting sensitive data. 3. Competition. There's also the issue of these giant companies having too much power. 3. Think about how Google controls the search market, or how Facebook owns Instagram and WhatsApp. 3. Many believe this lack of competition stifles innovation and harms consumers. 3. So, lawmakers are considering whether to break up monopolies or force companies to allow more competition. One of the biggest pieces of tech regulation news right now is the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, which has already set some of the toughest rules on privacy and data use. It's had a huge influence on other parts of the world, and now the US is starting to think about creating something similar. But here's the big question. How do we protect privacy without stifling the growth of tech companies? On the other side, there's also the issue of national security. Some lawmakers argue that tech giants should be held accountable for the content shared on their platforms, like addressing the spread of misinformation, hate speech, and foreign influence campaigns. Some also want stricter regulations on big tech's power in influencing elections and public opinion. In short, the conversation about tech regulation and privacy is all about finding the right balance. We want the benefits of cutting-edge technology, better services, more convenience, and smarter apps. But we also want to make sure our personal information is safe, that companies aren't exploiting us, and that we can make informed choices about what we share online. This is a fast-moving issue, with constant debates about the best way to regulate tech while protecting individual privacy and encouraging innovation. It's a hot topic not just for tech enthusiasts but for every person who uses a smartphone, a computer, or even just browses the internet. The big question everyone's asking is, how do we create a future where tech companies are accountable, but we still get to enjoy the digital world without losing our privacy?